Inheritance, an Upper Earth novel. Chapter 16, The Hunter, the Mathematician and the Lionheart. Armed with the bat's senses, Tom could visualize every shape in his path. They had no need of light. Marsilius led their small squadron, with Tom in second position, followed by Paul and then Ethan. Past waterfalls they flitted, through winding tunnels they careered, until finally they emerged into the light. Underground, the thrill of flying fast and close to the boulders and stalactites had intoxicated Tom. The open air took him to another level, overloading his senses. For the first time in his life, he was truly living. The old pains from squabbling parents and the daily grind of life as a schoolboy, all of it sloughed from his shoulders like a skin outgrown. Tom forgot everything. All he could do was feel. The wind against his face, the sense of freedom as they climbed higher, and the rush of blood to the head as they swooped down low. Marsilius stuck close to a river, following its sinuous path until they arrived at a great walled city. On the far side, 2 towers rose from a castle, dark sentinels watching over the surrounding dwellings and landscape. What is this place? Tom wondered. They were supposed to be in the netherworld, yet here they were flying in the open air, above buildings of every shape and size. Marsilius dipped lower, and Tom saw people going about their everyday business. This was no ordinary city. No cars, buses, or motorbikes filled its roads. Instead, horses, carts, and carriages dotted the tracks below. "Marsilius, slow down," Tom called out. He wanted to see more, but they flew so fast the sights were lost to him before he could take everything in. His words must have been swallowed by the wind, because Marsilius made no sign of easing up. They flitted over a market. On one side were lines of stalls with merchants selling their wares. On the other, wooden pens contained livestock of some sort. When they flew closer, he noticed that the animals weren't exactly normal. What he had at first mistaken for horses weren't horses at all, but had strange horns on their heads. "Am I seeing unicorns?" Further on, he saw other horse-like creatures with heads like birds. He wished that bats had better eyesight, for he couldn't make out the shapes of some of the smaller animals. Were those brown things over there lions? Damn! Marsilius had already passed by. Tom craned his neck to see behind him, but the market was out of sight. Then they negotiated a narrow shaded alley, zigzagging between ramshackle houses that nestled close together. At some points, where balconies jutted out, the flying space wasn't much wider than his wingspan. Tom followed Marsilius through a round window, landing with a thump on a wooden floor. Paul and Ethan flopped down beside him. "Hold on, boys," Marsilius said. "I'll make my transformation first." While Marsilius evoked the words to change him back to a man, Tom looked about. The walls of the small round room overflowed with the painted scenes of a battle. Angels fought with winged creatures, human in shape, but with the heads of beasts. Tom spied the outlandish heads of wolves and lizards and birds. Marsilius, now in human form, delved into his sphere and recovered their clothes. Another muttered enchantment, and Tom's skin began to tingle, then throb and stretch. His left arm grew in a burst, like an extending telescope, quickly followed by his right. Beside him, Paul and Ethan were changing too. The bat fur was the last thing to disappear, Tom noticed. Ethan let loose an uncontrollable snort of laughter. "The hairy look suits you, Paul. You're the spitting image of a gibbon." Paul shot Ethan an angry look. "I have read that gibbons are the most agile of tree-dwelling mammals," Marsilius commented. "A fine species, which I one day hope to emulate, if ever I should need a transformation for crossing a forest. Come, young sirs, we have no time for games and idle chatter. Time is short." He crossed the floor to a spiral staircase positioned in the centre of the room. "But Marsilius, what is this place?" Tom wanted to know. "This can't be the Netherworld." "Most newcomers find this city to be quite different from their expectations. This part of Hades is for the living. You might have heard of it as the Acre of the Undead, or the Elysian Fields. Neither of these expressions truly does justice to the Devil's Cauldron. As you can see, it is much larger than an acre, and neither is it the paradise that some myths might suggest. The population here grew during the 15th, 16th, and 17th centuries. When sorcery became outlawed and witches were burned at the stake, many fled here to relative safety. So the people here are somewhat different to what you may consider normal. Here, magic, witchcraft, and all aspects of the occult have been allowed to prosper. The same cannot be said of Upper Earth, but we may talk of this later. We have work to do." Down 2 flights they descended to a basement room. A long workbench occupied the central space, and shelves covered the walls on either side. On one side, books filled the shelves. Paul peered at one voluminous title. "Occult Philosophy and Magic," he said out loud, and pulled it from its space on the shelf. "Oh, do be careful with that," Marsilius said, a little too anxiously. "It is Agrippa's book of the occult, highly useful and exceedingly difficult to come by now." With extreme care, Paul placed it back on the shelf. On the other side, the shelves were crammed full of glass bottles, jars and phials of all shapes and sizes. Inside them, an array of murky liquids and grotesque contents resided. Locusts, scorpions and frogs, all dead and dried up, and leeches, worms and maggots in wriggling heaps. Ethan seemed fascinated. He walked the length of the shelves, examining the bizarre contents of the jars. "Now where is my catch-all?" Marsilius said, absent-mindedly. The sphere had been hovering next to his right shoulder since they arrived. Marsilius reminded Tom of a teacher he once had, who always forgot that he had lifted his glasses up on top of his head, and spent most of his time looking for them. "Ah yes, here we are. Catch-alls are incredibly useful, once you have them trained." "It's not alive, is it?" Paul's face screwed up, showing his confusion. "Not like you or I," Marsilius explained. "And it does not have intelligence. Rather, I bind it to my will, and it does my bidding, much like training an animal to perform a trick." Marsilius enlarged the catch-all, then reached inside with his hand. First came Ethan's backpack. Then the stone, smooth and steel grey and faintly dappled, like an Andalusian stallion Tom had once seen at a circus. With the stone came the whispers, a torrent of unintelligible words pouring into his head. Tom caressed the surface of the stone with the tips of his fingers. Is there really a ring inside? Yes, Marsilius murmured. Each time the dragon slayer dies, the ring is returned to a stone. With each new slayer, it must once again be obtained from the circle of stones. But how do I get it out? Tom was eager to know. Marsilius leaned closer. When the siren sings, the ring reveals itself to its rightful owner. The siren again. But who is the siren? Tom asked. Marsilius took a seat at the workbench. I know not from whence she comes. I perceived her coming in my speculum, just as I perceived yours. Like you, she is from upper earth. Her destiny is entwined with the dragon, just as it is for the hunter, the Lionheart, and the Mathematician, he said, looking at each of them in turn. Sorry, but you've completely lost me now, Ethan said. No, I'm the one who's sorry, Tom admitted. I haven't been completely honest with you. He paused, searching for the words to explain. How could he convince Ethan of something when a logical voice in Tom's own head kept trying to persuade him that the dragon was all a fiction? But each time he saw a ghost or a gromlik or a transforming bat, that little voice diminished, and the dragon became more real. Well, spit it out, Ethan said. At the centre of all this, there's a curse, Tom explained in the most convincing way he could manage. I've had trouble believing it, but think about what we've just been through. The potion and the transformations. Is a curse so far-fetched after all that? So, what is it, this curse? Ethan asked. My family has been linked with a dragon. For centuries, apparently. Seems that when my grandfather died, the curse passed to me. That means a dragon should awaken, and it's down to me, or us, to kill it, before people start dying. Ethan rolled his eyes and started to speak. No, wait, let me have my say, Tom insisted. Since this all started, I haven't just seen ghosts. I've even had logical discussions with them, just like I'm discussing with you now. It's difficult to believe in the whole dragon thing, but what if it is true? What if some great beast goes on a killing spree in Warwick, and we could have stopped it? How could we live with ourselves? You believe what you want to, Bud. That doesn't mean I have to believe it. I beg to differ, Marsilius said. To kill it, each of you must be committed. You must believe. Why? Ethan asked. I decided to help Tom because of something that happened in the real world, where real monsters exist. But these monsters are men with guns. I didn't sign on for some supernatural mumbo-jumbo. It doesn't matter whether you signed on or not, Paul said. Look around you. We're in the underworld. Did you see that market we flew over on the way here? It was full of mythical beasts. If we can come here to the underworld, a place I never thought existed, isn't it logical to assume that something from here can just as easily find its way to Warwick? Thank you, Paul. Tom was glad to have someone on his side. "And think about it, Ethan," Paul continued. "Whoever that man with the gun was, he has some connection to all of this. He must have. Why else would he have killed Tom's grandfather? The three of us are connected too." "And the siren," Tom said. "Without her, I can't get to the ring." He turned to Marsilius. "Did you say she was in danger?" "In danger is one way of putting it," a voice said. "I'd say she's up a creek with no paddle, and a saltwater croc hot on a trail." The door behind the workbench swung closed, as if someone had just come in. Then a rat-like creature emerged from behind the bench. Ethan groaned. "You're not telling me we have to deal with talking rats now?" "Listen up, mate," the creature said. "If us two are going to get on, then we need to drop the insults from the start. I'm no more a rat than you are. I'm a quokka. Quokka. Now, you're probably far more intelligent than you look, and know all about quokkas. But just in case, I'll lay the facts out on the table, plain as day. A quokka is a marsupial from Australia. It ain't in the same family as rats. Got it?" A smile danced at the corner of Ethan's lips. "Got it." "Good. Now we've got that straight, let's get down to business. Cacophrastus has condemned the girl to death, and she's the star attraction in today's Elysian games. If we don't do something fast, she'll finish up a tasty morsel in some varmint's food chain." "What sort of varmint?" Marsilius asked. "Was it the Ophanodran, as our informant thought? Quickly now, her life depends on it." The quokka nodded. "That's the one, the invisible brute. I gave the girl a bag of skeleton warrior teeth, like you said." "And the sneezing powder?" Marsilius wanted to know. "That too. She thought it was a bit of a joke, though." The creature hung his head. "We must be able to do something else to help her." "Can't you just put a spell on it?" Tom asked of Marsilius. "There are guards stationed all over, Tom. If I even try to say an enchantment in the amphitheatre, it is punishable by death." A thoughtful look came over Marsilius's face. "Perhaps another solution exists, though." He strode over to the shelves, picked out a book, then installed himself at the work table and began flicking through it. Tom had expected rapid action. With the siren in deep trouble, they needed to do something. He didn't know what yet, but something, anything. Instead, the minutes ticked past. They each found different ways of dealing with the agonizing wait. Paul chose to help Marsilius, fetching book after book. Ethan leaned against the wall, with his hands in his pockets. Tom just paced. The quokka ate. 25 minutes later, when Marsilius finally spoke, everyone else in the room jumped to attention. "That's it! The Asian giant hornet!" His eyes held a glint of triumph. Paul's head shot up. "Hornet? What about it?" "An Asian giant hornet carries venom so strong that it can dissolve living tissue. It would be a perfect way of getting into the arena undetected and killing the Ophanodran without anyone knowing. They would all think that the girl had killed it. Ingenious, even if I say so myself." "So let me get this straight," said Ethan. We just have to find an Asian giant hornet, train it to attack an invisible monster, and everything will be hunky-dory. No. Paul sighed with a resigned look on his face. Marsilius doesn't need to find hornets. He just needs to transform someone into a hornet. Partially right, said Marsilius. I still need to use desiccated hornet to make the potion, of course, but I do have some hidden somewhere in my stocks. Hey, does that mean we get to go flying again? Ethan exclaimed. Don't mention that word. I break out in a cold sweat just thinking about last time. Paul buried his head in his arms where he sat at one of the workbenches. Marsilius wasn't listening. He paced the length of the room, muttering to himself. We just have to find its Achilles heel. Ephenedrans are a form of lizard. But do they have an external ear canal? He strode back across the room to take down another textbook. Ear canal? Whimpered Paul. I hope he isn't suggesting that we fly into a monster's ear. Wake me up when this is all over, please. Marsilius snapped the book shut with an air of victory. Righty-ho, who's ready for a second flight? We need 2 good candidates. I'm up for it, said Ethan. I'll go too. Whatever the rescue attempt was going to be, Tom wanted to be in on it. Ethan shook his head. Tom, if all this stuff about a dragon turns out to be true, we can't risk losing you. Paul will have to go. Horror engulfed Paul's face, and he backed into a corner. No one's turning me into a hornet. Not now. Not ever. Never say never, Paul, Ethan crooned. 1 potion and 2 transformations later, and 2 hornets were crawling around on the table. It looked as though they were trying to communicate, but all Tom could hear was buzzing. Do you think they can understand each other? He asked Marsilius. Of course. It is only difficult for us to understand them, because their voices aren't loud enough. Tom imagined the conversation they would be having, and came to the conclusion that Ethan would probably be telling Paul to stop griping. Marsilius gently lifted them into a small wooden box, and they set off for the amphitheatre.